Hey everybody, so we are back for number two. This is the other speaker for the day. I hope you enjoyed the first one. This one, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Diana Liu. She has had an innate curiosity and thirst for learning, which has led her to a diversity and unique blend of life experience. Her journey began with academia, pursuing a Bachelor in Biochemistry, a Master's of Business, a Doctorate of Dental Surgery, through rewarding in terms of knowledge, skills, perception, self-criticism, performance, pressure, perfectionism led her down a path of chronic illness. During this period, her mother decided to pursue her yoga training, which her mother transformation inspired her to give yoga a try. She went through 10 years of deep detox and constant yoga practice and eventually reversed her chronic dis-ease. She then certified as a yoga teacher, shares the medicine of yoga to her communities and integrates into diversity. Her focus is on dental sleep medicine, dental nutrition to support people to breathe, sleep, eat, move, and feel better by bridging the mind, body, mouth connection. She digs deeper into the roots cause behind oral disease. So, without further ado, I'd really like to introduce you to Diana. Bam! There we go. That's an intro and a half. I feel like you've done everything. You're quite amazing. You have quite the wide range of skills. Like you've gone from school, academia to yoga to learning about like different forms of like incorporating like sleep medicine into like dentistry and dental nutrition and yeah, that's quite amazing. Like, tell me a little about this journey. How did this happen? Like, I really like to know.
Um, so, it started with, I think one of the things that my parents instilled in me from a young age is curiosity. And
Mm,
innately as a child, we are all curious, but they really supported that. So, I took all these different lessons, singing and art and dance, and they just allowed me to explore. Um, but then, I think at the same time, growing up in an Asian family, um, grades were super important and school. And so that was a huge influence in a lot of my decisions to just stay in school for forever. Um, and so, yeah, so I pursued all these degrees and I thought, life was about achievement and performance. And so this actually, on one hand, brought a lot of good knowledge and skills and background and understanding how the human body connects scientifically. And, I learned so much from the academic world, but at the same time, there was this stress and perfectionism and anxiety and, all this that I was dealing with at the time, but I didn't know it was that.
hmm
And then, you know, when I remember when I was doing my master's of business, I was getting all these, my body was screaming. I was getting panic attacks in the middle of the night, heart palpitations. My hands, they started to flare up. And I remember one day I thought I had rheumatoid arthritis. I couldn't even open a
mm
door. So it was just all these random symptoms. So I, went to the doctor and they did all these tests and they found out I had hypothyroidism, which is essentially where it's an autoimmune disease. And I think that's like an epidemic that's happening where autoimmune is essentially your immune system is out of whack. And so it starts to attack itself. So in my case,
hmm
it's attacking my thyroid. And also they diagnosed me with general anxiety disorder.
mm
And at that time, I was like, okay, I got to take these medications to fix my illness. But I kept going, kept powering through things, like not sleeping. I was eating fast foods, coffee, sugar, anything that could just give me that quick energy to be able to perform better. And luckily, my mom decided she wanted to do her yoga teacher's training, and she hadn't done many yoga classes before. I was like, this came out of the blue. It was like, what is this? First of all, what is yoga? And second of all, why are you spending $4,000 on this training? You know, you don't do a lot of. But she was like, no, I want to do this, and that's it. And that's my mom. She wants to, you know, she gets this idea and she goes for it. And so during her process, I watched her evolve in so many ways. Like physically, she was becoming more healthy. She was, you know, able to be more flexible than me. This was at the age of 45 that she decided to do this. And her English isn't that great, so she had me write all her yoga journals. So she would communicate to me in Chinese, and I would write it down for her in her journal. So I watched her transform like to a different person, you know, where she was coming up with these realizations. She was less reactive. She found more joy in her perspectives. And I was like, what did you do to my mom, and what happened to her, you know? So that really sparked a curiosity towards yoga, that maybe there's something there that, you know, that would help me out. And so then I went to a local studio and decided to give it a try. And so, you know, I remember the first class I did, I hated it. I was like I'm putting my body like downward dog. Like I look around, I'm like, I think this is what it's supposed to look like. You know, you're just kind of following along, and you're like, this is so weird. Why am I upside down? Why am I contorted? Like, you know, you don't really know what's going on. And my first class, I didn't really resonate with the teacher, and so I stopped for a little bit, but then I found a yoga studio where I really resonated with the teacher, and she just guided me step by step. And for me, I went into it initially for the physical exercise. Like, you know, I was really drawn to power yoga and like this intensity that I think I needed at the time, because it was almost like a detox. And so I committed to, she did a 30-day yoga challenge, and it was a really good deal. It was like $30 for like a month of yoga. And I'm like, cool. So, you know, I really went in, like, I think one of my personalities is if I get into something, I really dive deep into it. So I committed myself for 30 days, and something shifted in me. I was just hooked. It was an addiction, but in a good way. Because at the end, I remember at the end of one of these intense yoga classes, I just felt this weight lift. And in Shavasana, I was just able to let go and surrender. And that was my first experience, I think, of joy and surrender. And so I didn't know it at the time, but now looking back, it was the detox feeling that you felt, and then that release at the end. I think that we're all craving. And so then that took me on a path, and then yoga kind of became entwined into everything I did going forward. And then I pursued dentistry because it combined creativity, it combined being able to interact and meet all people from all walks of life. And, you know, initially within dentistry, like, let's say you fix a cavity, I found it like more like a Band-Aid, you know, where people have a wound, and you you've mend it, you fix it, but there's an underlying cause towards why, the cavity, why the pain, why are you seeing all these things? So then it took me to dig deeper into that, because I think what yoga does is it allows you to question why and question, is there a better way?
Mm-hmm.
And so then that took me to sleep medicine, which is basically screening people for sleep apnea, which is something that, isn't as known about, like isn't as talked about, not being able to breathe properly when they're sleeping. And that can start from a young age, a child having sleep apnea. That's can be mistaken for ADHD, or mistaken for depression or behavioral issues, but they're just not getting enough sleep. And so, so that took me to dig deeper into, why are we seeing these symptoms in people, and what are the ways that we can screen and prevent in order and teach people that there's stuff that they can identify, so that it doesn't lead to needing a CPAP down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding the importance of nutrition and how that benefits your bone development, your teeth development. And so, that's kind of how I ended up where I am today.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's actually really insightful. And it's an interesting journey, especially kicking off with the mother. Question that I have for you is, you went down the normal path of academia, you were studying, you noticed more of like you wrote, like a dis-ease that was going into your body. What I'd like to know is, while you were in school pursuing your dreams and your passion, when you started breaking out and they started giving you medicine and all these things started happening in your life, what was your thought process? What happened in your mind? What was your view? Like, I'd like to know a little more about like the mental aspects for when that started happening.
So when that started happening, I just accepted it at the time, like, I have this illness and I'm taking medication for it, and that's just what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on this medication, but the yoga, because at the time I wasn't thinking like, oh, I need to dig deeper at that time, right? It was just kind of synchronistic when my mom decided to do her yoga teacher's training. And then I forgot to mention that through that, it was like a 10-year detox of being so committed to having to bringing yoga into my life on a regular basis, that eventually my body came back into homeostasis,
Mm-hmm.
and I no longer needed the medications. So it was like an effect from the process. And then as I was doing more yoga, I was meeting different people that had a different perspective of health. And then when I did my yoga teacher's training, I met all these people that, taught me about herbal medicine, that taught me about, nourishing foods and what that actually means. And through that journey, then I have a better understanding of, the foods that are actually nourishing, like the whole foods, organic foods, in the least amount of processed forms.
Mm-hmm.
And the importance of sleep, because I think that the body has the capacity to heal itself when we give it the proper condition. So I wouldn't say, at that point in time, I just accepted it for what it was. But then through that journey, I had a lot of realizations re-questioning the way I did things. Like I used to think that the food pyramid was the diet. You know, that, I was like, okay, have my dairy, have my meat, have my, you
Hmm.
know, and that's what I was taught in school, that that is a healthy diet. And I ate that way for a long time, thinking that this, you know, that I was eating healthy. And so it's just like a process where, you know, slowly you keep just questioning why and is there a better way? I think those are the two mantras that, or the two questions that I keep asking myself, and a lot of things that I used to believe, I don't believe that anymore. And I know that could change too.
Do you find that a lot of the beliefs that you had came from your parents, came from school, or came from your own personal experiences?
It came from, in the beginning, it was mostly my parents and school, because that was
Mm.
my reality. Um, and so all the things that I was taught, those were my belief systems. And I remember, you know, I had other people that came into my life that had a more holistic view on things, and I would almost get angry at them. I was like, no, I was taught this. This is not scientific, you know, blah, blah, blah. But then it was only through my own personal experience that it was through that journey of becoming ill, of feeling, of doing those things to myself where, you know, I was putting pressure on myself. I was not sleeping, all those things. And it was a blessing. It was, you know, at the moment, I didn't see it like that. But now looking back, the illness or the dis-ease took me to a place where I needed to be able to question everything. Um, and and thinking more outside the box. Because now, you know, functional medicine is becoming more normalized, you know, where you have Dr. Mark Hyman, who he's a medical doctor, but his main focus is on nutrition and how,
Hmm.
you know, Hippocrates said that let food be thy medicine. And now today it's let pills be thy medicine. This isn't what the father of medicine wanted. You know, and so I think a lot of different healthcare practitioners are being more open to integrating just things that we need as humans, that, you know, from food, from sleep, just so like just very basic and simple water.
Hmm.
And it's pretty incredible once you start questioning people, what their sleep is like, or how much water they drink, like just these basic necessities, that there's a deprivation of that because of just society being so go, go, go.
So here's a question I have for you. As you started to ask more questions and your perceptions kind of shifted and you saw things in a different way, did that play or that impact your friends and the people that surrounded you?
Yeah, it really did. Um, you know, through that, the different realizations I had, and a lot of my older friends would not have that same sort of perspective.
Hmm.
Um, so, you know, it was really tough because I at one point felt like I was more alone in this, but then you realize that a lot of, you know, when you start to make new friends, or you start to reach out to and find people that have very similar beliefs, you're like, okay, I'm not, you know, this isn't ridiculous. A lot of other people are having that same journey. And so, I just watched, for example, an interview with a physician and Dr. Mark Hyman, and she was an internal medicine doctor, and she had a very similar story to my journey, where she was going through an autoimmune disorder and had all these symptoms, and and so you hear that story from, and it's not just doctors, it's everyone, because there's so many things that are contributing to stress, like just noise pollution, just our, technology, food, just being in a culture where it's, we have to just keep achieving more and more, rather than slowing down and appreciating silence. And now it's, I'm at a point where I try to connect with like-minded and hearted people, and learn from each other, and hopefully be able to change the system.
Well, here's a question. You've studied a lot in your life. You studied medicine, you studied yoga, nutrition, you've done a lot of stuff. So the question I have is, because we've all been taught the food pyramid for everyone. We're all given the same pills for this. If I have a headache, it's the same pill. If I have a problem, it's the same pill for every individual. Do you believe that there's only one answer for an individual when they have a symptom or they have a problem in their lives?
No, I think there's so multiple strategies, and I think that it's very customized to the individual. So some people might resonate with yoga, but other people might get that out of running, or like you, rock climbing and running, or journaling, or writing, or art, or there's so many avenues where that allows for the body to go from a state of fight and flight and stress to that parasympathetic state, where you're in your creativity, you're just doing something because you solely enjoy it. And sometimes people do need medication. Sometimes you're in a state where you are almost suicidal, and sometimes you need that medication to kind of not feel that intensity, and then incorporating other things, and eventually they might be off that medication. So I think bridging both Western and Eastern medicine, where there's an appreciation of both sides of things, for different reasons, and it's not like there's also one diet that fits all for people. So it depends on your blood type, it depends on what you resonate with, it depends on just listening to your body and saying, when you eat this, like, this is how I feel, and you get like a stomach ache and you feel nauseous after eating that, then you listen to your body. So so I think it's very customized, but however, this creates a little more confusion then when we're just so unique.
100%. It's harder to be able to really diagnose and speak to people, because we are very different. My upbringing and your upbringing, the way that we live, the way that we eat, the way that our bodies actually, the things that our body needs, where my body might react one way to certain foods, your body might react one way to another food. But it really breaks down to creating that relationship within your body and to listen to it, because we've spent so much of our life listening to other people that we forget to listen to the one person that matters, which is who we are and is ourselves. What I find is interesting is, so you're down the academic area, you were studying, you were into dentistry, and then you got into yoga, and then there was, a switch, and you started to see things in a different way, but yet you still stayed on the route of dentistry, and you ended up incorporating more things into it. So my question here is, why did you still stay on that route, and what are you looking for to gain through the initiatives that you're actually adding into dentistry currently?
Um, yeah, it's a really great question. There was a point in time where I was going through all that and re-questioning everything that I was re-questioning, is dentistry for me? Um, and part of it was, because I learned dentistry from, University of Toronto, and I got a good foundation of traditional dentistry, but
Mhm.
um, it's easy to just leave. I think it's the easy answer. But now it's like, okay, what can I do to change it? You know, and you just think of all these, people in the world. They were brought to a point where they didn't necessarily agree with all the, everything that you're doing. So it's more about, okay, now what can I do to bring that into dentistry? And so then I started learning about sleep disordered breathing. I started
Mm.
learning about nutrition. And a lot of this was my own digging into research. And then I started meeting other dentists that had very similar beliefs as me. And then I was like, oh, wow, I'm not alone in this. And so just reaching out and connecting with other you know, not only dental professionals, I started reaching out to chiropractors, to nurses, to other healthcare practitioners,
Mm.
and that had a very aligned belief of more like an integrative medicine or integrative health, where that the body is not a separate entity, everything is connected to each other, right? And so now I'm more looking at creating a program where, um, what are the foods that we need to eat to promote healthy teeth and bones? And it's not just reducing sugar and eliminating processed foods. It goes deeper than that. There's, essential vitamins that are important that isn't talked about, like vitamin K2. A lot of people don't know what vitamin K2 is, but that is
Mhm.
essential for your bone development. And and people are wondering, how does sleep relate to dentistry? Well, when I assess your mouth, I can um, I'll assess the amount of room in your airway. If you have a narrow jaw,
Mhm.
that might mean that you may have not developed that jaw, maybe through um, not getting that enough nutrients when you're younger, or it could be a habit as a child, like mouth breathing in your sleep or during your day. And people don't even realize that a simple thing like mouth breathing during sleep affects your whole development of your jaw. And so
Mhm.
this is the stuff I want to share with parents. These are the things to watch out for. And these are the things you can do to prevent your child from developing sleep apnea, from needing expensive ortho or getting their jaw broken. Um, and then looking into, so next year I'm going to be doing a training in MyoBrace, which is essentially this squishy device that kids can wear that trains them to break those habits like mouth breathing, like a relaxed jaw instead of clenching.
Mhm.
So this device can train them to keep the tongue to the tip of the roof of the mouth and keep a space between their teeth so that the jaw's always relaxed. And so if you can train these kids from a young age and develop good habits, even habits of posture, having good posture affects your jaw position and your teeth position. Um, because there's a link with that. When you have, on your cell phones all day, everyone's hunched over like this compression in your spine leads to the jaw moving back, so the airway's more narrow, and also brings the jaw joints back, so there's more pressure between your jaw joint. So just these little things that a lot of people don't know about. And so that's, then I realized that I'm here to share. share that information with others.
Well, what I find really interesting about the path that you took was you did go down the academic route, and after discovering and learning all these things, you could have just decided to say, forget all this and go down something else. But instead, what I'd like to acknowledge is the fact that you didn't. That you said, well, if this is the route that I'm going, how can I make it more enjoyable? What can I add to it? How can I, help to bring more of the things that I'm learning into it, the connectivity of it all? How can I better, kind of not change, but how do I better support an industry that's been a certain way for so many years and help to make it better? Because there is a benefit to dentistry. There is a benefit to a lot of these things that you're speaking about from and how they're all interconnected in themselves. So my last question for you is if you could, let's say somebody went down the same route that you did. They were in academics. They accepted things for what they were, and they got into this crossroad where they started asking more questions. What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, like if you're, I think that to view life as an experiment, right? Almost like it's a journey, and to stop being to never lose your curiosity, to keep learning, and that there's no need to put so much pressure on yourself in the process. And everything that happens is there to teach a certain lesson. So, sometimes, let's say, I had an illness, and I think now looking back, that was just my body saying, slow down and and listen. And so, yeah, just listening to your body more, and just feeding back into your body. So, our body is magical. It's mind blowing how everything works so seamlessly when you give it the right nutrients and the right environments. Yeah, just make sure you take care of yourself too, at the same time when you're helping other people. And yeah, don't stop learning and growing. And back to that last question is just how oral health is so important. The mouth is just it's such a crucial piece to the rest of our body, because it's our voice, our ability to chew, our ability to breathe, the microbiome in the mouth is like amazing, of how everything works together. There's bacteria that exist in the mouth that don't exist in the rest of the body because of the conditions that, it's one of our orifices that contribute to your whole entire health. So it's so important to take care of your mouth. And so my intention is to share that with the world, and how that links with the rest of the body, connect the dots.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I'd just like to acknowledge you and say thank you so much for sharing, for your wisdom, for being so open to talk about the path and the things that went on in it. And yeah, just sharing your story, because I believe that everybody's story will impact somebody else, because sometimes the questions that we answer are the questions that people are only beginning to ask, and vice versa. So thank you so much for your time, for your energy. One last thing, where can people find you?
People can find me on at the Dentist on Instagram.
Okay.
The Dentist. So yeah, kind of yoga and dentistry. And I just also wanted to say thank you so much for having me, and helping me face my fear of speaking on camera.
You're natural.
And just everything that you do, you know, encouraging people to share from their heart and how you are sharing from your heart and your experiences and your beautiful poetry, your love letters to yourself. That's that's so amazing, and you have continued to be such an inspiration in my life and my path. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, this is the end of it. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. I will be posting this a little later as well. If you want to find her, go to the Zentist on Instagram. I'll be posting the link as well. And yeah, until the next one. Bye-bye.